Bismillah, walhamdulillah, wa salatu wa salam ala rasulillah, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. During the time of the Prophet ﷺ, he was walking by and he found a young man throwing rocks at a palm tree. The young man, his name was Rafi'. And Rafi' was just throwing rocks at a palm tree of not even his own garden. It was a garden of someone else. So this young man entered into someone else's property and was throwing rocks at his trees in order to get the dates down. And the Prophet is walking by and he sees this. And so the Prophet ﷺ calls out, Ya Rafi', what's going on? What are you doing? Allahumma salli ala nabiyyina Muhammad. He knew this young man's name, Rafi'. And if you see someone entering your property and they're throwing rocks at your trees, what would you do? You're going to get mad? You're going to yell at him? You're going to scold him? What are you doing? In our country, you'd probably even call the cops and sue the individual. That's how relationships have died out here in this country, unfortunately. But let's learn from the Prophet ﷺ. Ya Rafi', what are you doing? Why did the Prophet ask him, what are you doing? Well, the Prophet ﷺ is doing something very important. He's trying to understand why this young man is behaving this way. In other words, is this young man behaving this way because he's trying to create problems? Or is he very innocently trying to do something that he doesn't know another way of doing it? And so Rafi' says, Ya Rasulullah, I'm hungry. I'm hungry, and so I'm just trying to get these dates down. And so the Prophet understood immediately that this young man isn't trying to cause problems. He's just hungry, and he just found these dates, and he said, okay, let me eat from these dates. And when the Prophet knew that his intention was good, he was able to engage a situation in a wiser way and in a more effective way, where he taught this young man a better way to go about satisfying his hunger. He said, Oh Rafi', you know that when a date becomes ripe, it just naturally falls down from the date tree. So look around on the floor and find dates that have already fallen and eat from that. And this way, you don't have to tire yourself by throwing rocks at this tree and frustrate yourself while trying to get them down. Allahumma salli ala nabiyyina Muhammad. What a beautiful way of disciplining and raising and training and teaching a young man. The Prophet ﷺ did not discipline, he did not correct this young man with anger. Rather, he did it with conversation. Conversation is what makes relationships. Healthy relationships are based on and built on healthy conversations. That's how the Prophet did, ﷺ. But all too often, people resort to anger. They see something they don't like, their son behaved in a certain way they didn't like, their daughter behaved in a certain way they didn't like, the wife, the spouse, whoever, they behave in a certain way that frustrates the individual. And we're living in a time when everything is frustrating. Life is difficult, the economy is getting worse, everything is getting expensive. The conveniences of the world are becoming less and less. The stresses of the news that we see is worsening by the day. And we're just always so stressed out. And when a person is stressed out, we resort to anger to get that stress out. That's not the solution. During the time of the Prophet ﷺ, they were stressed out over many things. The enemies who were plotting and planning against them, the difficult economic situation, the feeling of homesickness, especially for the immigrants. But the Prophet ﷺ always resorted to conversation. And you know what anger does to relationships? It destroys relationships. It creates distrust. It creates a very vicious mental cycle that erodes relationships. So you get mad at someone, how do they always react? You lash out at someone, how are they most likely going to react? They're most likely going to react with the same amount of anger. It becomes a cycle, and it's harmful, not only to you as an individual. People who constantly are angry, they develop illnesses. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala preserve our health. But it also destroys the family. I don't want to be around a person who's constantly angry. I don't feel safe around a person who's constantly angry. And you know what? When kids, even the spouse, is around someone, an authority figure like the father or the husband, who's always angry, do you know what they end up doing? They end up resorting to hypocrisy, to lying. That person's words no longer have any value in the mind and the heart of their family. And these children will eventually develop the ability, the skill to listen to what their parents are saying. It goes in one ear, out the other. Because anger, no one wants to be the victim of anger. So what can we do? What can we do to go from angry conversations to healthy conversations? Let's look at our religion. One, the Prophet ﷺ teaches us that if you are angry and you're standing up, sit down, relax. If you are angry and you're sitting down, lay down. That's the way to do it. And in some narrations that are weaker, the Prophet ﷺ says, get up and go make wudu. What's the psychology here? Why is that effective? Well, if you're angry, you have this energy that wants to be released. And if you're standing up, you have more ability to release it in a way that could be regretful. So when you think, okay, the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ, I'm standing, let me go find a place to sit. Number one, you take your mind off of your anger and you preoccupy your mind with something else that you're able to execute. So you don't have that feeling of frustration. Your anger isn't exaggerated even more by frustration. No, I have a goal right now that I can easily fulfill. Where's the nearest couch? Where's the nearest chair? Let me go and sit down. Also, what you're doing is your body is moving. When you go and you sit down, you find a chair, you go and you make wudu, you are releasing some of that energy that's coming out as a result of anger. You're releasing it on something else, not your spouse, not your children, not a family member. In fact, one individual who, a lady came to him and said, I'm dealing with a lot of anger and I'm always angry and I'm lashing out against my children. And what advice can you give me to deal with that? The man said, when you feel angry, do you have stairs in your home? She said, yes. He said, start going up and down the stairs. And so this lady took his advice. And every time she got angry, she remembered the advice. She'll go to her stairs and go up and down, up and down, up and down until she relaxes. A few weeks later, she goes back to the man and said, how do you know that would work? And he explained what I just explained to you. When you're going up and down, you are releasing the energy that is being created by your anger on something else. And he said, what? I thank you because I also lost about 10 pounds doing this. What a beautiful way that's taken from the sunnah of the Prophet that will take us away from anger and towards healthy conversations. Also, among the teachings of our Sharia, the Blessed Prophet ﷺ, if you are angry, turn away. The Prophet ﷺ, how many times was he attacked? Was he mocked? Was he ridiculed? Was he made fun of? Was he bullied? Abu Jahl came and poured the innards, the inside, the guts of a sheep on him, ﷺ. And he only retaliated maybe with a few words, ﷺ. How was he able to do that? Because he understood something that so many people refuse to accept. And that is turning away from someone else, from their anger, doesn't reduce your dignity. It doesn't make you lesser of a man. It doesn't make you lesser of a person. Rather, the exact opposite. It makes you more of a man because you refuse to take yourself down to that level. Alayhi salatu wassalam. And so when a Bedouin came to the Prophet alayhi salatu wassalam and said, he called out, Ya Muhammad. He didn't respect the Prophet alayhi salatu wassalam's name. And he went to the Prophet, grabbed the Prophet's gown, and violently pulled the Prophet to where it was so violent, it bruised his neck, alayhi salatu wassalam. And then to make it worse, the man said, O Muhammad, give me money. Of all things. Of all things. Not anything urgent, man, just convenience. The Prophet, what did he do, alayhi salatu wassalam? Did he get mad? Absolutely not. He turned at the man and he smiled and he told the companions, give this man what he wants. And then he went. That's it. End of story. Did that make the Prophet less of a man? Us? Me? I'd probably retaliate. Smack him. How dare you? We have boundaries between us. And of all things, you're asking me for money? You're coming and begging from me. You could at least do it humbly. That's not the way the Prophet ﷺ worked. He understood, ﷺ, following the verse of the Quran, خُذِ الْعَفْوَ وَأْمُرْ بِالْعُرْفِ وَأَعْرِضْ عَنِ الْجَاهِلِينَ. Take the little that people have to offer you. Be thankful for that. Right? Forgive people, overlook their faults, and turn away from the ignorant people. Someone in your family makes you mad, turn away. There's nothing unmanly about that. That is the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ. So I ask you all, put in the comments below, what are some strategies you've used to calm your anger? And maybe share with us some of the experiences of people who have made you angry and how retaliating with anger doesn't ever solve anything. I hope to read what you have to say and learn from your experiences. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Assalamu alaikum everybody. Thank you for watching. If you're finding benefit in these videos, remember that every day throughout the month of Ramadan, we'll be releasing a new video. Our goal is to build a stronger family, especially in our times today when the family unit is really dissolving. It's so important for us as Muslims and to serve as a role model for all of humanity. Share these videos, like, drop a comment. We'll see you at the next video. Bismillah.